So the conversation with my next guest has been one of the most inspiring ones I've had so far. If you want to have significant personal change, but you don't want to go through the struggle, then you need to listen to what Michelle Masters is going to say in this interview. She's one of the world leaders in a practice known as NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. She comes from an organization called NLP Marron, based in California. And she combines this practice of NLP together with family systems work and various other modalities to create lasting change in people in all areas of their lives. She works all across the world today, coaching students in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Asia, Africa, and so forth. And she's got a book coming out called Money Magic, which is really going to help address the topic of people's attitudes and subconscious beliefs around money. And it's on the back of a very successful program that she's been running for many years. Anyway, thrilled to announce that Michelle is with us, and let's have a listen to the talk now. This is the Expat Business Hero podcast, and I'm your host, Alex Congdon. So hi, Michelle. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here, Alex.
Absolute pleasure to have you with us. Now, Michelle, I was talking with my wife earlier on today, and I said that you're coming on the show, and I said we're going to be talking about many things, but we're also going to talk about NLP. And she said, "What is NLP, Alex?" And I said, okay, well, let me ask Michelle, and Michelle will tell us. So can you explain what NLP means?
Well, I can explain what the name means. So the name is Neuro-Linguistic Programming. So NLP is short for that. Really geeky, mechanistic, not warm and fuzzy name at all for some amazingly warm and fuzzy and effective stuff. Exactly. But it came out of Santa Cruz in the 70s when computer programming was all the rage. And so when you say it, neuro-linguistic programming, it sounds almost like speech therapy. But what it actually is about human software. It's about how to rewire your brain so that you can automatically have more of what you want and less of what you don't. When you rewrite software, the software doesn't have to say affirmations, it doesn't have to meditate, it doesn't have to hold itself accountable. When you rewrite software, it just runs differently. And that's what this does for people. You don't have to hold yourself accountable, you can revise the patterning that's running. So it's actually, even though it's geeky and annoying as a name, that programming part, which freaks people out because it sounds like mind control, but it's actually giving you access to your own programming and a chance to change it.
Wow. I think for a lot of people, that would be surprised that you can actually change.
Right? Yes. This is new. This is new for humanity. Up until relatively recently, you got your patterning. It was pretty much in place by age 6, and you just had to deal with it or try to overcome yourself or fight yourself. But there was no changing it until now.
So tell me then, going back, why did you decide to get into this field? Why did you decide to set up a business around this?
Right. Well, I'd actually been been wandering all over, doing all kinds of stuff. And the last couple of jobs I had just felt like all the life force was being sucked out of my soul. And so my grandmother died and left me a little bit of money, not a lot. And I decided I wasn't going to work again until I found work that really meant something to me. And the money ran out, and I still hadn't found it. But shortly thereafter, somebody put a flyer in my hand and said, "You should go to this free seminar." And that's where it all changed. And actually, I almost left the free seminar because there was only one other person there, and so they were waiting, desperately hoping someone would show up. It was in this enormous cavernous room, and there was just the two of us. And I looked at the brochure, and I saw how much the course cost, and I thought, well, there's no way I can afford it. I should just leave now so I don't get their hopes up. But the other lady said, "Don't leave." She didn't want to be the only one there. And within half an hour, I knew, okay, this is what I've been looking for. And I thought, there's got to be a way. And there's always a way.
This was in California. This was
yeah. And this was in 1994. And so I started taking the class. There was a way. It worked out in miraculous ways, the way that stuff usually does. And within a year, I was actually a training assistant, and then a training manager, and then a trainer. So, and I've been there ever since. And now I'm teaching other places as well. But yeah.
So I mean, just to give some context for people, this is the NLP Marron program, and this is in the context of the other programs around the world that do NLP. This is pretty much the if I don't know how to write the word to describe it. Maybe you could describe it in terms of its setting in that.
We have a stellar reputation, which I'm really proud of. Um, there's a lot of NLP's been around long enough to have like different sects, like Presbyterians and Baptists and Catholics, and so the branch that I'm in focuses a lot on physiology, whereas a lot, and also on teaching people how to cook instead of just how to follow recipes. There's a lot of centers that teach you recipes, but if the recipe doesn't work, then those people don't know what to do. But we teach people like how actually the brain keeps itself stuck and what creates change, so that if something doesn't work for somebody, you can find out how. You can find out exactly what's going on and then revise it.
Right.
So it's one of the more difficult ways to learn, but once you learn it, then it's astonishing what you can get changed for people.
Okay. So you're traveling in the world right now, and you're teaching and giving seminars to a lot of people, and a lot of them are actually entrepreneurs. So what kind of issues or limitations, negative attachments, as you call them, are you finding that this entrepreneur kind of grouping is having?
Right. And a lot of what keeps entrepreneurs stuck is the same stuff that keeps everybody stuck. But there are a couple of things that are unique to entrepreneurs. And one is this idea, because one of our students said to me, he said, I'm a project manager and I'm really good at it. I'm really good at risk assessment. But I want to be an entrepreneur, and that means I have to take risks, and I don't like to take risks. And I said, now, isn't that interesting? I said, if for someone to believe they have to take risks to be an entrepreneur, it presupposes that they're not actually in control. Like, it's actually only risky if you're not in control, right?
Yeah, follows.
If you are actually in control of your reality, then there's no risk. But that's a presupposition. These beliefs we all have. A presupposition is a belief we don't even notice we have. It's just like we so take it for granted. We take it for granted that you have to work hard to make money. This is not actually true. All kinds of people who are working their buns off, who are making diddly squat. And there's also people not working that hard, frankly, who are making a lot of money. That's right? True. There's also a belief you've got to be talented or invent the next big thing. We all know talented people who invented something great still broke. And we all know people who have not invented anything who've got a lot of money. So almost everything that we think it's about, it's not about. It's not about how hard you work, although we do that to try and prove we're worthy most of the time, which is another kind of sad thing, that we think we have to earn our worth. We have to prove our worth. But that having to work hard, having to take risks, which presupposes we're not in control, and this idea that we have to get other people to do or be something so that we can have what we want. And that's a lot of work. If you're trying to figure out how to get other people to do or be or do what you want or be what you think you need them to be so you can have what you want, that's so much work, for you and them. But once you start to know that you can actually have what you want without having to try and trick anybody, manipulate anybody, convince anybody, sell anybody, force anybody, then life starts to get a lot more fun and a lot easier. So that's
you mentioned this topic of money. Okay. So, and I know you're writing this book at the moment, coming out this summer, called Money Magic: Clearing Your Path to Money, Time, and Happiness. So can you tell us a little bit more about that, why you're writing it, and what are you trying to tackle with this topic?
So in 2006, I was sitting in a staff meeting, and our executive director, I was sitting there trying to pretend I mattered in the company, and also trying to not take up too much space, at the same time. And she turned to me and she said, "Would you be willing to do a 2-day workshop on money?" And I was like so thrilled to have a chance to create a workshop. I'm like, sure. Now, at the time, if you knew me, this was like asking Donald Trump to do a workshop on humility, right? I mean, I knew nothing about money. Nothing. But what I did know was how to create change. So instead of doing, I'm told the workshop is different from what everybody else does because I've never done a money workshop. What I did was I took all these NLP techniques that create permanent change, and I applied them all to money. And then I tried it out on me. This was 2006. Tried it out on me first to make sure it wouldn't cause, any unwanted bloating or constriction or water retention. And it seemed okay. I didn't burst into flames or anything. I did the workshop, over the next couple weeks and months, we started to get really good feedback. When it came time to do it the next year, I thought, you know what? It feels like I made more money. I hadn't been trying. I hadn't done anything differently, but I went and looked back and my income was up 66% without me trying. And that's kind of common of what we hear. And it's gone up every year. And without me having to try. I didn't come up with a plan. I have to work hard. I have to see more people. It happened in a way that a lot of times I get feedback from people, they don't even realize that their income doubled or tripled until they go to do their taxes, because it doesn't feel like they did anything differently. And they'll do their taxes like, Jesus, I made twice as much money this year.
Wow.
So I started that workshop in 2006. At first it was just all NLP, and then about 2008 I went to a matrix energetics workshop, which was a quantum way of working. And I started adding that in to the work. And when I started adding that in, people started getting changes before the workshop even started. They'd register, and the next day they'd get a promotion or a raise or a check in the mail or a big sale. So I've been doing this for, I guess, 12 years now. And there's only so many people I can reach. So what the book will do is it'll help a lot more people who'll never get to come to a workshop. And even people who do come, it'll give them something they can refer to more often, some of the change patterns, and also a lot of the understanding of nobody's broken or lazy or stupid. Nobody. If you don't have what you want, it's because there's patterning in the way. The worst we can say about anybody is they've got old patterning in the way. Mm. But when you revise that patterning, then things change.
Do you have any interesting stories then? You mentioned some general ones there, but of people that have had some sort of shift to do with money.
Yeah. Well, the problem when people ask me that is there's so many, it's hard to pick out one or two.
Wow.
I have testimony after testimony. I've been really blessed because when you change the patterning, people's experience changes. So one of the ones I use a lot, that I tell a lot because it's quite marked, is there was a fellow, I can't pronounce Ike's last name, I wish I could. He's from Palestine. He had a sandwich shop in San Francisco. It was one of the top 50 sandwich shops in the US, and he was closing it down. And he came to the workshop and he realized he had a fear around money. And so that shifted for him. In the next year, he opened 7 stores and his income went from $300,000 to $3 million. And since then, I don't even know how many he's opened, but he says he regularly turns down offers of $100 million or more for his business. He doesn't want to sell it. But all because that one fear shifted and everything just fell into place for him. Now, not everybody has that one thing that causes it all. But one of my favorite other examples is somebody who, she said, at the end of the month, there was never enough money. She was always in debt. She had struggled to make her payments. There was never enough to buy what she wanted or to save money. She took the class, and 6 months later, she emailed me. She was so happy. She said, I'm still making the same amount of money, but somehow I'm buying the stuff I want. At the end of the month, there's money left over. I'm saving for the first time. The money didn't change. She doesn't know what happened, but suddenly it's just going further.
Wow.
In a way that's hard to explain. It kind of defies description. It's like a guy who took the class. He was making enough money, but he wanted more time with his kids. And he said, I can't work less because I need to make this amount of money. He was doing the online class, and within 2 weeks, he started to freak out because he couldn't figure out how it was happening. But he was picking his kids up from school every day, having dinner with them every night, and still making the same amount of money. Like he was having more time with them and somehow still making the same amount of money. It's astonishing what changes, like how the reality seems to bend and contort itself in new ways when we shift our beliefs and patterns.
So one of the things that I hear a lot of people talking about is to do with their self-worth.
Yes.
I don't deserve to charge that much. I don't.
Yes.
I don't deserve to ask for money in return for what I do.
Yes.
You must see this a lot.
This is honestly, and I said this, I was just teaching a class this morning, and I said this to them. This is so prevalent. I see almost no one I meet, at least they don't show up at my workshops, has a real sense of their worth. We all have such a hugely impaired sense of our worth. You know, your sense of worth is in place by the age 3.
Oh,
like
wow.
how much you think you're worth and what you think you deserve, is that those beliefs are laid down by 3 years old. Now you show me a 3-year-old who doesn't deserve a good life, who doesn't deserve good things. They don't exist. But we get these ideas either from the environment, the associations from the environment we're in, or the families or cultures, however we come about it. Almost no one has a sense of their real worth. And we will not let ourselves have more than we think we deserve. If we get more than we think we deserve, we will either get it to go away, lose it, blow it up, or we'll destroy some other area of our life. We'll screw up our relationship or our health, but we will get it to net back down to what we think we deserve. So that's one of the big things for me in doing this work, is revising people's sense of worth. I have trees all over this property. None of them are questioning their worth. None of them. Do I deserve all this sunlight? Right? We've got 3 cats. I guarantee you they're not questioning their worth. Right? This is why God gave us cats, I think. But they presuppose that they deserve good things. Why wouldn't they deserve good things? And this is a peculiarity of human nature that we actually are self-consciously question. Am I okay? Am I doing enough? Am I being enough? Should I do this? Am I okay? Am I okay? Am I okay? And rarely is the answer yes. And if it is, we've often set up a set of parameters like, I'm okay if I do this, if I take care of these people, or if I make this, or if I, fill in the blank, ways in which we barter for our worth.
Put too many conditions on it. Things that we can't control, probably.
Yeah. Or things that we can, but that take away. Like, I was talking to a fellow who, he's like, I really want to make this move, but I have to, my family, I have to take care of my family. I don't want to move away from my parents because I have to take care of my parents. And so, and I said to him, I said, notice when you're really doing what your heart's called for, notice how alive and engaged you are. And then when you cut that off to do what you think you need to do for other people, just notice what happens to your energy and life force. And so, so I was encouraging him to for a while sit with the concept of being able to go where he's called and still love and care for his parents, even if it's in ways that are different than what he imagined. Because when we cut ourselves off from that to do what we think we should do or need to do, our life force starts to dial down, our inspiration starts to dial down, our creativity. It's like the motivation for life just starts to peter out.
I'm going back on something you said earlier on about certain belief systems that are set up to the age of 3. So what are you saying? Too late? Or is it too late then? Or it's not. I mean, there is a way of rebalancing that.
There is a way of revising it, but here's the thing. We don't really change ages. We collect ages. So if someone is 40, they're also 36 and 25 and 17 and 3 and 6 months old, right? We just add on to our ages. We don't change them. It's not like you lose everything. Okay. So if our sense of worth is in place at age 3, having a conversation with a 40-year-old about their worth does not change the patterning that was laid down at 3. To change the patterning that's laid down at 3, you have to actually access the parts of the brain that were developing then and access the patterning that they stored. When you do that and you change that, then it's different. It is like the software is rewritten. Now, things around worth, we never have just one of those. We have like multiple, like sometimes thousands of associations around our worth, and some of them are contradictory. Some of them are like, oh, I'm okay, and some are like, oh no, I'm a worthless piece of worm dung. And so you find the biggest ones you can and revise them. And the more those you start to change, then the more the person's natural set point starts to expand, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we can't do it justice on this program, but can you explain a little bit more about your approach? I mean, what's the method? What is the general sort of approach that you do when you're trying to help someone with these sort of issues?
Right. I can tell you in generalities. People often ask, well, can you tell me how to change my beliefs? And it's like, yes, I can, but it takes a year and a half to explain it. Whereas we can do it in a change piece in, a couple of minutes or an hour or two. So basically what you have to do is you have to get access to the original programming from the age at which it began, which they're usually encapsulated. It's usually a part of the brain that's a little bit quarantined. When you get access to the kind of original, it's called a compelling reference experience, but the original associations that the beliefs are built on, you can change those using, humans make associations faster than any other creatures. We are association making animals. Like if you've ever had food poisoning at a restaurant, anytime later, if you think of that restaurant, boom, the response is automatic, right? One trial learning. You could have had 50 good meals there, and then that one time, but after that, you'll have a visceral kind of, I don't want to eat there again. Our brains make associations so fast. And so what you can do is use the human brain's ability to make associations, if you know how to do it on purpose, to take what the 40-year-old knows and neurologically connect that knowing to the 3-year-old or 2-year-old or 6-month-old who was questioning their worth. And it changes the stored association. It literally changes the neurology and the brain chemistry.
Wow. So you just reprogram that, in quotes, food poisoning incident.
Right.
And make a new association.
Yeah. Yeah. The worth poisoning incident. Yeah. You can go back in and revise it. And it's not like talking to your inner child. It's actually accessing the original experience and then revising it from the inside.
So someone today setting on a new journey to set up their own business or go,
right.
They've got so much in quotes baggage that they have to do. I mean, it's not just the outwardly facing issues of how do I make a business plan, what's my product. It's actually very, very internal.
Yes, mostly we're trying to override the natural resistance we have set up. If you're in space where there's no gravity and there's sort of like no atmosphere, and you push off from something, you don't have to push off very hard, right? Because there's no resistance. So when somebody doesn't have a lot of resistance, beliefs that are in the way to what they want tends to show up pretty quickly. I'll give you an example. When the first time I was asked to Australia to teach a couple times by Kane Minkus and Jeffrey Slater, and then I'd been there enough that we decided we were just going to go on our own, even though nobody invited us. It was the first time, though, I was promoting myself, and I started to think about, gosh, it's going to take $25,000. This was a while back, but $25,000 for us to go there for 2 weeks just to break even. That's just the costs of renting the space, blah, blah, blah. And so I started to make myself a little frantic about, I don't really have that many contacts, blah, blah, blah. And then I remembered what I do. And I said, okay, what would I like to make? And I decided what I'd like to make in profit. And then I forgot about it. When we got home and I tallied everything up, expenses, it was $100 over that amount is the profit we made.
Wow.
Now, I didn't come up with a plan. I didn't say, okay, if I want to make that, we need this many sales. I need to contact this many people and this many affiliates. It's like I got clear on what I wanted, and then I forgot about it, and the universe delivered for me, like with astonishing precision.
So what's going on?
Yeah. We make it so much harder. Mostly what we're doing is because we have beliefs in the way. In this case, I didn't have beliefs in the way. I was like that person in space. There was no resistance, so it was handled. And I won't go into the story about how I found this house, but it's almost unbelievable how it all happened, how it came to be, what we got, and how it all fell into place with almost no effort on my part. But what happened was, it was the day I said, okay, I'm done with this, where I was living, where I was renting. I'm done. I'm ready. And within a week, I was in contract for the most amazing house. It had everything I wanted. And and in ways that nobody can still believe when I tell the story. I tell you it now, but it's like a 5-minute story.
Now, on a slightly related but different note, I've seen some of your work on family constellations.
Right.
Can you explain what that is and the power behind it?
Right. Because there are two main things, really only two main things that keep people stuck. One is unconscious belief systems, and the other is unconscious family loyalties. That's the family constellation piece. And of the two, it is much easier to change belief structure than it is to get people to stop suffering for and with the people they come from. So this is based on the work of a German fellow Bert Hellinger. I was lucky enough to get to train with him. He's still alive, but I think he's quite senile now. It's hard to, we don't know how it happens, but when a human being is conceived into a family, they are connected almost like a morphogenic field, almost like a collective consciousness to the family collective consciousness. So they may not consciously know anything, but unconsciously they are connected to everyone in that family. And when a human being comes into a family, their instinctive urge is to want to belong and to want to make it better and heal everyone in the family. There's never been a child born in the history of humanity who did not want to heal their parents.
Yeah.
There has also never been a child born in the history of humanity who has pulled it off. But everybody tries, and not just parents, also siblings, grandparents, aunts, uncles, etc. And human beings will try in predictable ways. The first way they try is they will try to love the pain into submission. I will love you so much that it will all be okay. And because the kid's love is so enormous, this feels like a good plan. Of course it will heal everything. How could it not? Never works. If it worked, every parent would be instantly healed upon the birth of their first child. So it never works. And when it doesn't work, they go to plan B. Okay, I will take the pain from you. I will have the problem so you can be okay. Also never works. You can no more take someone's emotional pain than you can take their bursitis or their food poisoning or their, crabby liver. Yeah. You cannot take someone else's pain, but they try. And so now you just have two people who you can clone the pain, you just can't take it. And the third thing that people do is it's like, okay, well then I won't have it too much better than you. If it was bad for you, it will be bad for me. If it was hard for you, it will be hard for me. I promise. I was working with somebody yesterday, and without realizing it, his father was caught in one of those family constellation things where his father was trying to unconsciously save his own father, who died when the family was young, and also his siblings. He had 7 siblings that died. He was trying to take all that on. My client's father was trying to heal all that. And because of that, his business did not do well because he was stuck in that. My client would not let his own business do well because his father's business didn't. And he didn't want to show, not consciously, but unconsciously, didn't want to make his father look even worse.
Wow.
Right? Because some part of us always wants our parents to be happy and successful, and kind of like to be the God and Goddess of our universe.
Mm. And this is all happening at a subconscious level.
Lord, yes.
We're not aware.
No. That would make us crazy.
And is becoming aware of these links the start of trying to come to terms with them, or to
that's a good question,
to transform them, or what is the
there are formats that we do to try and make an offer to people where we acknowledge the pain in the family and we acknowledge the ways in which, I think I might sneeze, excuse me, it's allergy season, hang on. Thank you. There are ways in which we can acknowledge the pain that's been in the system and acknowledge the way someone's trying to carry it or heal it and make them an offer to let it go. But you cannot force someone to let those unconscious loyalties go. So that's why I say it's harder. I was working with somebody recently who had worked on that family loyalty piece twice before and it hadn't shifted, but this time it's like some part of her was ready, and something let go. So all that ever has to happen for us to have what we want or to be okay is for us to be willing to let go of carrying other people's pain or suffering with them. But getting people to a point where they are okay with letting that go and letting life be better for them, no telling when someone will get there. Because when we suffer for or with the people we come from, we feel like we belong and we feel innocent. When we have it better than them, we feel guilty.
There's no winning.
We are designed. Yeah. Nobody wants to feel guilty.
So we do this in solidarity, just to.
Yes. People will die to belong. Otherwise, war would not be possible.
Wow. Now, I read that somewhere that you get called the coach's coach.
Yes,
a lot. We probably got a lot of coaches listening as well.
Thank you.
Why is that? Why do they call you that?
That was both Jeffrey Slater and Chris Duncan dubbed me that, because so many. What they said was because so many of the world's best coaches either trained with me or work with me, like they have me coach them, and it's not coaching in the traditional sense in that I'm not. It's more that we find out what they want and we find out what the patterning is that's in the way, and we change that. And when you change that, then stuff just moves. So I've been teaching this for a long time because I've only got so many time. There's only so many people I can work with, but this is why we keep training more and more people how to do this, because the work is phenomenal.
I imagine that during all this time that you've come up with your fair share of struggles or challenges, creating a business in a new area that's taken over the past 20 or so years. What sort of things have you faced, and how have you handled them?
At this point, it's mostly not as many challenges as most people, because, like I said, for the last 12 years, since I've been doing this work, clearing up these patterns, stuff shifts and changes pretty easily. For me, the biggest challenge is getting clear on what I want, and then saying no to everything that doesn't match that, because I got way more invitations to teach or see work than I can sanely take advantage of. So I've got to get much better at saying no, getting clear on what I want, and if it's not a match, saying no.
But the book's going to help on that, because that's going to help you at least to get your message out there in a more efficient way. I mean, to a certain extent.
Sure, I hope so. Yeah, I mean, I'd be really happy if it started to spread awareness of this work and what's possible for people, and maybe let themselves off the hook, that it's not actually that they're lazy or broken or stupid. They've just got patterning, and patterning can be changed.
So can you tell me a little bit about some of the mentors that you've had along the way, and how they supported you in this journey?
Well, I was lucky enough, like I said, to get to train with Bert Hellinger. That was a real gift. Also, the two guys that founded NLP Marron, Bob Hoffmeyer and Carl Buchheit. Carl Buchheit's now the sole owner, but they founded it together. Two fantastic men, and so I learned so much from each of them in different ways. I mean, from Carl, I learned the tools of the trade, and he did a ton of work with me. And from Bob ran the company with such integrity and clarity and honesty. And one of his famous lines was, "When all else fails, tell the truth." He was one of the most cleanly, respectfully honest people I know. He didn't use honesty as a weapon. He used it as a way of being respectful. And I really appreciated that from him. And there's no way to put a value on the tools and the changes I got from Carl. So those two men. And Carl's got a book out now too, I think, Transformational NLP. If somebody wants to read that, I think you get it on Amazon.
I mean, this is something I ask a lot of my guests around using mentors, or or asking for help. Maybe I'll phrase it in a different way. Is there a secret to asking people for help? Getting a mentor to help you in general?
I don't know if there's a secret. It became really obvious to me that when Carl would do the work with me, that things changed. And so now, in addition, there's Melissa Joy from Matrix Energetics. Sometimes I'll do a session with her because I came back from Europe kind of fried, and I did a session with her, and I felt so much better. She was working on that more quantum level. So we don't come to a planet of 8 billion people to do it on our own. I mean, what would be the fun of that, right?
I'm just wondering if it's one of those belief systems that, because I think,
Probably. But you don't actually get points for doing it all yourself. There's no one keeping track of that. And I remember somebody saying that everyone who ever did anything great had a team of people working with them. Like, you think of all the really amazing things that are happening. It's not ever one person. So it's a team sport. Being human is a team sport.
Yeah, I love that setting. Team
sport. Yeah. It's okay to get help. I don't even like to call it help, but like, it's okay for us to move each other along.
Now, are you seeing in your work now, you're getting out a lot around the world.
Right.
Are there any patterns that you see across cultures, languages, countries? Is it the same are we all the same underneath everywhere? Or are there differences that you're noticing?
No. I notice cultural, I'm not only from America, but from the West Coast of America, where so much innovation comes out of the West Coast. From San Francisco up to Seattle is the area that gets, accused of being kind of woo, airy-fairy, but also this is where most of the innovation comes from, just both culturally and also technologically. It's an amazing area of the world. And when I travel to other places where there's also all kinds of things going on, the history in some places, the unbroken history, say in Asia, all those cultural expectations put a huge weight on children that are born into those families. So the expectation of taking care of the family and caring for and putting other people's needs first. It shows up in different cultures in different ways. There's some of that in Europe. It has a different flavor than in Asia. It's not as ingrained in the rest of the world that you can have what you want. This is a very American presupposition, but it is changing. And what I'm struck by is when I talk to people all over the world, kind of about how our beliefs are formed and how they can change and what's possible. Usually I have about 2 days, and I'm astonished at how fast, even though a lot of them have never heard this information, how fast now people are getting up to speed. I could not have had the same conversation 20 years ago. I remember doing a group with a group of folks from Japan, and I had a translator, but there was no way to translate some of the energies, because the energy was not in the place it is now. It's globally, in my experience, humanity is at a place now where things are really ready to start to change. It comes in different flavors. It has, slightly different, and some places a little harder than others, but it's astonishing how ready it feels like to me humanity is to take the next. It's wow. Not just a leap, it's a huge leap forward. When we start to know that we can control our lives, it changes the dynamics of everything. If you can have what you want, you don't need to control other people. Right? You don't need to conquer other people. You don't need to attack other people. You don't need to vilify other people, make other people wrong. You don't need to build walls if you can have what you want, right? So many of the things that we are living with are artifacts of really old ways of thinking where we didn't have control. We had to protect ourselves and be careful and blah, blah, blah. So it's an interesting world that's going to be coming.
So I'm going to ask a question, which is a very simple question. And
sure.
I think a lot of people try to answer this with a very simple, checklist, 1, 2, 3.
Sure.
But I got a sense that there's no easy answer here. And that is, what would you give as very practical advice for someone that's struggling with their mindset around, or their belief system around their right to be successful.
Yeah.
Do you see? Because it's not, I don't think it's as straightforward as.
Well, people always ask me, so how do I change my beliefs? I'm like, you know what? I would suggest you go to somebody who knows how to do it. Not necessarily me, because first off, it's really hard to change your beliefs on your own. When I have something up, I go see somebody else. So, I mean, you can spend a lot of years figuring out how to fix your own car so that if something goes wrong, you can tune it up. Or when it needs it, you can just take it to somebody who that's what they do. Honestly, I think that's easier. The one thing that people can do right now for themselves is, if you can let yourself dream a little, what would you like? What would you really like? Not what do you think you need to do so you can have what you want. Like how, we do so much of what we think we want is what we think we need to have so that we can have what we think we want. Like, I want a business that makes this much money so that I can have, enough money in my bank account and travel when I want to travel. Well, what if you could just have the money in your bank account and travel when you wanted to travel, right? What if you didn't have to go through this whole building a business thing? Now, if you want to build a business, fantastic. But there's so much of what we do, we think we have to do so that we can have what we want. So there are a couple of questions you can ask yourself. What do I want? What do I want? What do I really want? What makes me happy? What lights me up? Because that's when you're most in touch with kind of your heart and soul. And there's immense power there. But what really makes me happy? When am I most alive and engaged? And then start imagining having that without worrying about how. It's the how that often takes us so far offline. I've had people who've wanted to take my money magic course who said, I really want to take it and I don't have the money. And I'll say, okay, I understand. And I said, just try this out for a while. Just once a day, just say to yourself, I'd like to take money magic. And then don't worry about how, just forget about it. And so many of those people have shown up at the workshop. They're like, yeah, something just happened. Something just showed up and I was able to come. So the clearer you get on what you want, that's huge. But it has to be what you really want, not what other people want you to want, not what your boss, your spouse, your father, it has to be what you actually want. And then stop worrying about how.
That's great advice.
And let the universe work a little magic for you. So, yeah, I know. Most coaches spend a lot of time on the how.
Yeah. If you get the why right first, then it's a lot easier.
Honestly, you have the power of the infinite behind you when you're really in touch with what you want. That's huge. Yeah.
So what about you then? What for the future for yourself? What are you planning? What would you like to do?
Yeah. Well, I'm blessed in that, I'm so happy. I mean, I have work I love. I have an amazing relationship. I have a beautiful home. We travel. I mean, there's so much that's good. So it sounds trivial, but the things I want now are get better at speaking Italian, get better at speaking French, get certified in scuba. I mean, just kind of fun adventures with people and nature. Those are the things that I enjoy, and wanting this awareness to get spread further. That's what the book will help with. And there's a couple more books I want to write too, just on this whole thing about change without struggle. Because we think change has to be hard, but when you know how to do it, it's actually really simple. So, and the family constellation work, and there's some more stuff that when I leave, I want to leave behind some, as clear I can, some communication of how you do this so it can spread.
So again, it's one of the questions I asked all my guests. It's around, imagine it's your time. You just touched on this a little bit, actually. It's your time to give back. Okay. And I know you're giving a lot already, but it's in a different context. And if you had to choose someone or a group of people to mentor, but in the context of giving back, who would you really like to help?
There's such an interesting presupposition in that question, because what does it mean to give back? It almost sounds like you've taken, right?
It could be, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, trees give back just by breathing, yeah? Yeah. I mean, whales don't sit around asking, how can we give back today? Like, their very existence is part of the beauty, right? Their existence is giving back. And this is the thing that humans don't understand. Your existence is giving back without you trying. Honestly, I could get very teary because we so undervalue our experience. And have you been around somebody who's really happy? Probably, at least once, yeah?
I'm sure I have.
Yeah.
Once or twice.
Have you been around somebody who's really miserable and stuck? Yeah. What's it like for you to be around those two people?
Well, it's very clear that one saps your energy and the other one gives you energy. I mean,
yeah. So the more happy we are, the more at peace we are. Honestly, we're giving back without trying. So I don't spend a lot of time worrying about that. And I cry anytime I see somebody go through an amazing transformation. I can watch a movie where Julia Roberts finally gets to shop in Pretty Woman, and I get all teary because for her it's this opening, right? I'm really happy anytime I can be part of that. But I don't think any of us need to give back other than our well-being, because our well-being is an astonishing gift we offer.
I love it. You've redefined the question for me, which is brilliant.
Thank you.
A lot more powerful, I think, than I've heard before.
Thank you.
Well, Michelle, I want to say thank you very much for being here. I just wanted to finish on asking you, if the audience wants to, reach out to you, find out more about you, where should they go?
Sure. There's two places. I have a YouTube channel, Michelle Masters NLP, where there's videos people can watch. There's even a couple of webinars on there. And then my website, michellemastersnlp.com. That's where you can contact me.
And you're going to put some information up there about the book coming out this summer. I
sure hope so. And yeah, because we do want to offer, there'll be a pre-launch where, it's available for sale before it's actually available. And we'll have a special offer for people if they want to buy it in that special period. They can get it for really inexpensively. Amazing. Cool.
Well, I just want to acknowledge what you do. I want to say thank you on behalf of all the people that you help and all the people that you're going to help. And really
thank you.
Thank you on their behalf. And thank you so much for coming on. And I hope we can talk again in the future. And thank you again, Michelle.
Thank you, Alex. See you soon.
See you soon.